We asked about expectations to the leaders of the sectors for accelerating decarbonization. And for those that have you not voted yet, please do so. We've got the results. There are still people who are voting. Recommendations to the government. That's the largest percentage, and about the same amount for cross-sector stakeholder involvement. That's the theme where we took up earlier. And then to promote climate change counter measures of the different sectors. It's quite distributed, disseminating leading climate efforts. That comes next, in that order. So earlier on in the questionnaire survey, it was mentioned, or it was shown that there are high expectations of leaders, and that was the result. And today, we have for the top leader session, those who want to answer to these expectations. It's a new program which will be introduced in JCI, and this is the Leaders Circle. And I'd like to briefly explain about the Leaders Circle. 5 years after the establishment of JCI, we're establishing a leaders circle within JCI to further promote the spread and dissemination of advanced climate change-related initiatives and policy engagement. Participating members will represent the sectors that make up JCI and will be asked to do 3 things which are shown on the slide. Firstly, lead change and drive initiatives within their sector. And number 2, improve their organization's climate change initiatives to be more progressive and effective, and communicate their efforts at home and at the UNFCCC, COP, etc. And number 3, lead policy advocacy and direct dialogue with policymakers on climate change action. Today is the kickoff of the Leaders Circle, and so there are 6 people who are participating. I'd like to introduce them. Sandra Wu, Chairperson and CEO, Kokusai Kogyo Company Limited. Sorry, could we ask the panelists, the leaders, to come up on stage? I'm sorry. And President of Okawa Printing, Mr. Tetsuo Okawa. Nisei Asset Management Corporation's President and CEO, Mr. Hiroshi Ozeki. President of Chiba University of Commerce, Professor Sachihiko Harashina. Mr. Teisuke Suzuki, founder and president, Network of Business Leaders and Entrepreneurs for a Sustainable Business and Energy Future. And chairperson for Odawara Hakone Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Kadokawa will be participating via video. Moderator is journalist Hiroko Kuniya. Thank you very much, Ms. Okubo. Once again, let me introduce myself. I'm the moderator. My name is Hiroko Kuniya. Earlier on, as the poll or survey showed, there are bars that need to overcome for decarbonization, and that was what the question was about. And the largest number of questions concerned management and local government, the top executives of these sectors. And so here we have people who have been leading the decarbonization effort. And as Okubo-san mentioned, this is a new circle which has been launched in JCI. So these are members of the circle. And in various forms, it has been explained that the Earth is facing a crisis. It was expressed in many ways. And IPCC, if we look at the March report of IPCC, it said that for all of the people, for sustainable world and to create a livable space, the window of opportunity is very quickly closing. A 1.5 degrees target. In order to achieve that, the potential possibilities for achieving that is rapidly diminishing, and the stakeholders are issuing a warning. We're approaching an Earth which is not livable. And we have actually felt that in this day and age. And action has been mentioned in the action session. Various approaches were explained, and their awareness was mentioned. And technology, which support that clean energy transition do exist. And if we look at renewable energy, power generation cost is quickly coming down. And so renewable energy electricity that has been generated is quickly increasing, and that gives reason for optimism. And this is only an estimate. As soon as 2024, that's next year, coal-fired power generation will be exceeded by power generation through renewable energy, and such reports are coming out. And so amidst this situation, if we look at the situation in Japan, unfortunately, renewable energy growth is minimal. 2021 numbers is the most recent figure. The growth compared to the previous year is 0.5%, a mere 0.5%. So in terms of speed and scale, a lot of this is being asked of us, but we're not keeping up with the global trend. There is a major gap, and the Japanese government has targets for climate change countermeasures. And the global decarbonization, if we look in terms of speed and scale of what is being asked for globally, we're lagging behind, really. And decarbonization speed and toward the increased scale, the government's climate countermeasures, in order to influence that, NSAs, non-state actors, must make positive efforts. And to policy decision-making, we have to come up with a specific policy recommendations, and we need to communicate this very quickly. And there must be a raft of this communication, and hence the leaders' circle within the JCI. And we want to create a driver for approaches in transition, and we have people who are spearheading this effort. And we want to talk about, we want to hear what is going on in their minds. And the members are directly involved in certain sectors. So we'd like to hear about how they're trying to lead the efforts in the sector, and in widening the scope of transition, what are the challenges, and specifically, what kind of policy recommendations do they wish to make? These are things I'd like to ask of them. So one by one, very briefly, if you could talk about your own efforts and your resolution as a member of the Leaders' Circle. First, we'd like to ask Sandra Wu, Chairperson and CEO, Kokusai Kogyo, please. Sandra-san, please.
Thank you very much, Kuniya-san. Thank you very much for the invitation today. JCI event. Well, 2 years ago, I had a chance to attend. Back then, we talked about 2 points, and I just want to share that with you now. First one was that in that year, Kokusai Kogyo, we said that by 2030, we will set an interim goal of cutting GHG emissions, and this was certified. So that's the first point that I mentioned. And the second point is that we are not in the manufacturing industry. So the amount of emission from our own company is very small, and scope 3 accounts for 93%. So there's a lot of things that we were not able to control. So I said that this is very challenging. And 2 years since I'm attending the conference once again. And there has been one major progress made, which is that by 2050, net zero, we will achieve net zero in 2050. We made that commitment the other day. SBTI is being participated by 6,000 companies around the world. And from Japan, 671 are taking part. So Japan is the country with the largest amount of participation, but it's only 80 companies that have made commitment to net zero, and only 20 companies have been certified. Why? Before submitting our commitment, we had an internal process, and I fully appreciated the difficulty. In order to achieve the target of net zero, there's a number of problems that we cannot solve on our own, and in order to achieve that target, society as a whole must be oriented towards decarbonization, and that the society as a whole has to change towards decarbonization. But our mission is with the information we get to the future, and climate change countermeasures is something that we must be committed to do. We don't give excuses just because society is not changing. We want to drive change in the society, and we consider that as a resonator. And therefore, by 2050, we have made a commitment to achieve net zero. To achieve net zero, what do we do? Through 2 efforts, we want to achieve net zero. Number 1, our business management. From our own business, we will reduce our emissions from our own business operations. And through our main business and our operations, technology to reduce emissions and the services to reduce emissions, we will provide that. We make that available to our customers. Through these 2 efforts, we want to achieve our goal, but we cannot do this alone. And society as a whole must be oriented towards decarbonization to have that change in the society. And therefore, to the government, towards forming a society that is decarbonization, I want the government to show a strong will to make the transformation. For example, when the government does public procurement to participating companies, maybe a requirement could be attached to reduce GHGs. It not only has the benefit of reducing emissions, but a desirable society can be painted by the government through that message, and this has the power of changing people's mindset to bring about social change. And therefore, the top leaders of JCI should approach many companies to try to demand initiatives and measures that could bring about that societal change.
A very passionate intervention from the very beginning. Thank you very much. You talked about specific policy recommendations. Perhaps you could go into depth on this later on. We have President of Oka printing next to me, Mr. Tetsuo Oka. It's an SME, and their business is printing. And already they're printing using 100% renewable energy. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Okawa from Okawa Printing. We have large companies here, and we have companies that are older than my company. But if I may be presumptuous enough to present, in 1881 we started our business, and we are in our 142nd year. I'm the sixth generation president. It's an old company. We print through wind and solar, we say. In 2019, we achieved 100% renewables, and wind energy, we purchased 80%. And our own in-house generation, we used solar panels, initial investment zero, that's 20%. And we add to these to achieve 100. SBT, SMB, we have been designated 2021 as SME of SBT. And compared to 2011 in 2030, 50% reduction was our target. And we were successful with a PPA, so that in 2020, 89%, approximately 89% was the reduction we achieved. So we've accelerated the achievement by 10 years rather. And the printing business is such that 90% is electricity scope in terms of scope 1 to 90% is electricity. That is a CO2 emitted at the time of electricity generation. That's 90%. And this is our hope and expectation. After doing away with plastic, we want to do away with paper. I want to go into detail of this later. Tablets being more environmentally friendly compared to paper. In laws, there's a lot of talk about doing away with paper, and so we are hit hard by this trend. But we look at this as an opportunity. Large company tier 2 and tier 3 was talked about later. Within the supply chains to the SMEs, we say we have achieved 100% renewables, or we've been designated SBT after much effort. And to the SME representatives, we say we will provide support for decarbonization, and this is exactly what we have done. And the second help we've extended was printing companies understand papers very well. So we want to promote paperless because we have this knowledge. The third generation digitization scan robot is what we intend to introduce from December to January. And this will be 100% renewable energy. So paperless will be achieved through renewable energy, 100% renewable energy, through digitization, AR, OCR, so that ChatGPT can be used. And we will be supporting SMEs in this effort as well. Thank you very much. Your very core of business is paper, and you're doing away with printing, so that will, I imagine, to be a very difficult issue, dispensing with that. And so I'd like to hear more, but we'd like to move on to Suzuki-san, the founder and president of Network of Business Leaders and Entrepreneurs for Sustainable Business and Energy Future. And Suzuki-san is also chairperson for Odawara Hakone Chamber of Commerce and Industry. There is a regional effort, and he is trying to expand the region. So over to you, sir.
Thank you. I'm from Odawa. And Okawa-san is a model child amongst SMEs, but I'm here as a representative of inferior students. And earlier I was forced to raise my hand to participate, so I don't know what I can do. I make kamaboko, fish paste maker, and it's been 158 years since foundation. In English, we often say we are what we eat. Everything is connected. That is what I feel through my work. And Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I'm chairperson, and 99.8% of Japanese companies are SMEs. 70%, or the added value that we aim, 50% comes from SMEs. But SMEs are not so vibrant nowadays, and the government's policies are not in line with what we need. We are trying to support the local economy. We are proud to do that. So we have to be revitalized, otherwise the region will not be revitalized. And we have to have the right environment, so the locality and the local SMEs are two sides of the same coin. And the network of business leaders and entrepreneurs for a sustainable business and energy future is the name of the organization. In 2011, there was the East Japan earthquake. This became the trigger of our organization. We really keenly felt that localities must be self-sufficient, and as represented by nuclear power, central government-led structure itself would render Japan more vulnerable. So SMEs will have to take on the issue of energy, and 250 is the number of members of our organization. We're in our 11th year. So as someone from the SME sector, I'm here. What I'm saying is nothing new. I've been saying the same thing from 10 years ago. And climate change was not such a hot topic 10 years ago, but nowadays this is a big thing. Now, why a local SME must work on energy issues? Let me just give you 3 reasons. 3 are the environmental issue, economic issue, and business issue. Starting with the environment. Obviously, climate change is a major environmental problem. For us SMEs, previously, we used to think that climate change is something that is happening on the other side of the earth, that only global MNCs should think about this. But in 2019, in Hakone, 1,000 millimeters of rain fell, roads were disrupted, and tourism in Hakone was destroyed. So climate change is about ourselves. It's something that will have an impact on our daily lives. So we strongly felt that, but we are oftentimes forgetful. But in any case, economy and the environment are not in conflict. They are integrated. And as was discussed in the first session, from an ESG perspective, you have to work on climate change, because even if you're an SME, you'll be eliminated from the global value chains. So as a local company, we have a strong view of the environmental issue. The second is the economic problem. One of the big problems of Japan's economy, is that money is not circulating. Money stock, the amount of money stock, over the past 50 years, it's been rising, especially after 2015. With Abenomics, there was a bump. But in the past 30 years, Japan's GDP has not changed. So companies are investing, but there is no added value created. But money does not disappear. It's being stored somewhere, being dormant. We often talk about flash money, but we are living in local communities and we don't feel that there is so much liquidity. So we have to think about attracting money to have that money be recycled in the community. So when we think about climate change, this is a big energy issue. Local energy balance in localities are in deficit. And for the whole of Japan, yen is depreciating, so there is more than 30 trillion yen being used to pay for import of fossil fuels. So we work very hard, and we are making tribute to Emirates and Arab states. We want more of this money to be recycled and circulated in our own country and in our own localities. We have to have that structure and system in place to recycle that money locally. Energy becomes very important. Energy policy is positive for the localities for the following reason. Regions are trying to revitalize, we're trying to attract more tourism, and we're trying to increase the number of population, the residents. Odawara Hakone is a major tourist destination in Japan. So we're trying to attract more visitors. But when you think about tourism, ultimately, this is going to be competition between regions. This could be a zero-sum race. And now that the population of Japan is decreasing, if you see drop in population in one place, other place could go up. But energy would not lead to competition between regions. This is something that each region can do on its own. So this is superior in terms of economic policy for localities. Kunya-san is looking at me, asking me to finish quickly. Well, business management issue, we have the foreign exchange issue as well as the conflict in Ukraine. There is so much instability and energy cost is staying high. So in terms of hedging the risk, we have to think about the energy that we have. That is quite important for business management. When your utility bills are so expensive, in the past, the payback period was longer, but now it's shorter. So this could be regarded as an opportunity to invest in energy. So at this Energy Future Network, we are trying to support this. And at the Chamber of Commerce, we're trying to expand our awareness to work on energy as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. You're all very passionate, and you really don't run out of words. You said that money is not circulating. That was what Suzuki-san mentioned. And indeed, from the perspective of investment, financial-oriented market operation to change the economic system and to accelerate decarbonization through all of this. In that sense, ESG, through ESG investment, the environmental society issues, including climate issues, must be tackled. And those who have the power to do so are asset owners. From Nisei Asset Management Corporation, we have Mr. Hiroshi Ozeki. So I'd like to talk about, perhaps you can talk about the approach you're taking within your company and what you have under plans to do in the circle. Thank you very much. I'm president of Nisei Asset Management. My name is Ozeki. Nisei Asset Management, as the name shows, is a subsidiary and operating company of Japan Life, and we manage the Nihon Life's money, but also stakeholders, corporate pension and public pension funds. We manage that as well, and institutional investors, banks, and or large companies. And the surplus funds of these entities we manage as well. And there are individual customers, and we have investment trusts through which we offer asset management services. And as for AUM, the totality of AUM, that's 34 trillion yen, which we manage. And Nisei Assets ESG investment and financial education and the resolve that we have, I'd like to talk about as well. I'd like to talk in three stages. With regard to ESG investment, Nisei Asset Management, as Martin-san mentioned, the chair of PRI mentioned initially. In 2006, PRI was launched, and in that same year, Nisei Asset became a signatory. And in 2008, 2 years hence, domestic equity ESG factors all were incorporated in the management of equities. And we continue the same practice to this day. And Nisei Asset incorporates ESG through its entire range of activities, financial analysis of companies and future cash flow and future performance estimation. We incorporate environmental factors and social factors and governance factors. We reflect that in future performance estimates. And if we look at whether the equity is underestimated or overestimated, or whether there's potential for growth, we use inside analysts which do this calculation. As to our actual track record in terms of equity asset management, and this is disclosed. Sustainability report is what we compiled recently. It's on our website, so please have a look. ESG evaluation, those companies that have a high ESG evaluation, if we look at equity performance of these companies, cumulatively they show very good performance. And also corporate bond investment, credit risk evaluation is such that ESG evaluation is very effective there. When ESG evaluation is high for the issuer, and if we look at the downgrading of the rating, there's a small percentage which are degraded in terms of rating compared to other companies. So ESG rating is equity investment upside, can be used for upside, and for credit side, it can be used for downside control, and that became clear through statistics analysis. And there was talk about money circulating or the lack thereof as asset managers. Net zero asset managers initiative is something that we're participating in, and among the portfolios that we manage, carbon footprint to be zero in 2050. We're committed to that, and our parent company, Nippon Life, as an asset owner, they are committed to net zero. And our portfolio, if we look at our portfolio, the investees, 10% of our investees are approximately contributing 90% of GHG. So just cleaning if you want to clean your yard, then if you sell 10%, then you could achieve carbon neutral. But doing that perhaps may not be meaningful globally, as you can imagine. And so we invest in equities, and the high emitting 10% of businesses, we focus on them in terms of our engagement. We've designated as high engagement companies, and so we focus on engagement to these 10% of the companies. The high emitting companies, they may be blue chip companies, or they may be non-blue chip companies in terms of their emissions. In terms of environment, to turn the best performing, low performing companies into high performing companies is very important in realizing carbon neutral. So we're focusing on engagement. We're emphasizing engagement to a great degree. And in that sense, in terms of investment, for one thing, those companies which are high-performing in terms of ESG, the ESG leaders, there's a fund that invests in high ESG-performing companies, and then there are companies that are not doing too well in terms of ESG, the lower-class companies in terms of ESG performance, and the lower-performance ESG companies, we invest in them, and we engage with them so that they can improve their performance. The transition is what we try to promote through investment. And in addition to this, the present technology is such that the carbon neutral may be difficult, but going forward, development of such technologies might contribute to the realization of a net zero. There are companies that might contribute to this effort, and we invest in these companies. This is impact investment, including venture companies. These are the approaches that we're taking. There's so much for investment, but the other is starting last year, high school students. We've focused on high school students. Financial education is mandatory for high school students now. And I was a director of the Investment Trust Association. And high school students, not only in social studies. I have to study home economics teachers, home economic teachers. I have to teach them and teach them financial education. And there seems to have been a lot of booing among the home economics teachers. But we talk about the financial education to these teachers. We create teaching material, and as the association, we do this. Nisei Asset provides teaching materials for, toward this end as well. And also within our group, a sustainability circle. We've created a voluntary circle, sustainable circle, and they come up with very rich ideas using manga to offer education to elementary school students and high school students, and to provide this free of charge. We have created this as it's on our website, and it's easy to see using the iPad, and this is being used. And another time, we said that game education is a field in education, learning through games. It's something that you can enjoy, and it gives you a sense of the real world more than sitting in classrooms. And well, one of our participation called Takara Tomy, a toy company, and she asked whether SDGs and games can be created. And Kanazawa School of Engineering, if you ask, it's a major university. I think it's a major university, but some people may not know of these universities. The high school student teachers want to send their students to this university the most. But leaving that aside, UN SDGs promotion has been commissioned to some universities. There are very few, and this is one of them. And Takara Tomy was talking to SDG games, and we participated, and 6,000 sets were used to offer education, to distribute this to elementary school and junior high school and high school students. And we also use this to offer financial education. And this is one approach that we're taking. I think I'm getting dirty looks from Kuniya-san as well. So I would like to defer some of the things later. Please do away with the resolve portion. So I'll end here. Thank you. And I'll give you the remaining later on. Thank you. And the scenario that I had created is being broken, and we did want to engage, give you more time to talk, but there is no time. And so we'd like to turn to Harashina-san, president of Chiba University of Commerce. 2019 is when they achieved 100% renewable energy electricity generation, and so the transformation model to be communicated from the university is what he's working on. Can you be short? Can you be brief? Thank you.
Faculty members of universities tend to talk for long. You might be worried. Yes, I will try my best, because in the introductory remarks, everything I wanted to say might be covered. 4 years ago, when we reached 100% for the first time in Japan, we did have a goal in the university community. We wanted to expand this. First, you have to start with yourself. We were able to do this, so you can do it too. We want to expand. So we will expand this in the university community. We reached this in 2019. This is about power. Early 100, the university, RE100, the university version, we achieved that. We aimed at scope 1 and scope 2. Scope 3 is a bit more difficult. We're taking up that challenge right now. And the achievement should be spread widely. So in 2019, as we reached the target, we went around talking to presidents of universities. But in 2020, we had COVID. So we weren't able to go around anymore. So that put a brake on us. But in 2021, through online conversations as well as holding seminars, we started from 2021, 2 years ago. We talked about that then. And Chiba University of Commerce is situated in Ichikawa. It's about 18 minutes by train from Tokyo, very close. And we have a history of about 100 years. And we started from teaching the ethics of commerce, decent commerce, decent business management, ESG investing. We're doing this at our university. There's not a lot of university doing ESG investing. People were worried that we would end up making losses as a result of ESG investing, but we're okay. And commerce ethics means that it should be good for all parties, seller, buyer, and the community at large. We want to do business that would satisfy the community. There are many SMEs in Japan who are oriented in that way. Companies that stay for long, there's 30,000 companies that have a history of 100 years. Right now, it's 40,000 companies that with a history of 100 years because we treasure trust. And Japanese people are very conscientious. Once you set a target, and once you make an announcement, you prepare. For example, there's not many universities that take part in Race to Zero. We were one of the first. Second was University of Tokyo University, and the third is Tottori. There's about 1,200 universities around the world. So Japanese people should make a bid to take part. So we are calling on other universities to do this. What we did is that in 2013, 10 years ago, I came to this university from Tokyo Institute of Technology, and in 2012, FIT started. And as a profit-making business at our university, we started to introduce mega solar photovoltaics. That was a decision made by the management because decent energy is renewable energy. So decent management is decent energy, decent commerce. And having come to this university, I did some research, and it was about 60%. 60% of our electricity can be covered with renewable energy. People often say that 40% cannot be achieved, but I did think that the remaining 40% can be done. I'm just one member of the faculty, but I called upon my colleagues. Professor Irukawa is great, so I tried to partner with her, and we would have joint seminars, and we got external funds to conduct research to do net zero. We got 10 million yen from METI as grants, and in 2019, we reached 100%. And I became president in 2017. So we can start making investments because this is now an organizational effort. What you have started on a voluntary basis, I changed that to an organizational effort. And my predecessor, Professor Shimada, allowed this to happen. So this is not just an initiative by a faculty member. This initiative was supported by the leader. So I am willing to give support to other people. This is something that I want to convey to other universities. Can I go on? Why do universities have to do this? Well, I'll talk about this later then. Just one last comment. This was appreciated globally. So UNEP is recommending Green Gun Awards. This is covering all universities working on ESG. 2030 Climate Action Award was created last year, and our university was the first awardee. There's Harvard and Stanford. There are such preeminent universities, but we came number one. Other universities are buying this with money, but we are creating on our own. We conserve energy, we generate energy, and what is lacking, we buy. And we are working with university students. We are developing human resources at our university.
Thank you very much. There are so many themes. University and decarbonization, SMEs and decarbonization, finance and decarbonization. Each of the themes are very large, so it's hard to get back to the crosstalk. We only have 18 minutes remaining, and I'm just wondering what to do as I was listening. The scenario has changed a little bit. SMEs and regional decarbonization. I forgot one more person. I'm sorry. A person who's not here. So sorry. A person who's not with us. I'm sorry for this oversight. We have the Honorable Mayor of Kyoto City, Daisaku Kadokawa, who has sent us a video message. So please take a listen.
Hello, everyone. I am Daisaku Kadokawa, Mayor of Kyoto. It is an honor to take part in the Leaders' Circle together with everyone here who are playing an important role in realizing a decarbonized society in Japan. Let me express my appreciation. The city of Kyoto, our culture is to live in harmony with nature. The tradition of taking care of things, these have been nurtured through our eternal history. We have been making a citizens-wide effort to promote decarbonization. From the forefront of the municipality that is the closest to the residents, we want to accelerate this transformation towards achieving the goal of 1.5 degrees. So that's why I decided to take part in this circle today. By sharing and learning from each other, best practices, sense of urgency, and our goals, we hope to make efforts to spur innovation and expand the ring of action across Japan and around the world. This past spring, the cultural agency was relocated to Kyoto with its functions enhanced. After a 150-year interval, Kyoto is once again the capital of culture. Culture is about being inclusive, respecting diversity, and building a sustainable society, leaving no one behind. The achievement of SDGs is also an important theme. We believe culture is extremely important in realizing a decarbonized society. We want to work towards our objectives. As the birthplace of the Kyoto Protocol and the place where IPCC Kyoto Guideline was adopted, which supports the implementation of the Paris Agreement, we have worked with the perspective of countering global warming. In this period, we have reduced the amount of waste to less than one half, and energy consumption by 30%. But what matters is what we do now. 4 years ago, Kyoto made a 2050 net zero declaration, and this expanded around Japan. And in the following year, that evolved into the central government policy. We in Kyoto are determined to play the role of leading Japan's measures. These efforts have led us to being selected to be included in the CDP Cities A list for 2 years in a row. The city of Kyoto, in conjunction with the expansion of ESG investment, both in Japan and abroad, we have issued our inaugural Kyoto City Green Bond, which was received very well by investors. Furthermore, as an advanced region towards net zero in 2030, we are exerting all our efforts into the program of zero carbon ancient capital model to increase the regional vitality through decarbonization of the culture and lifestyle of Kyoto. Towards solving global issues, we want to act together with all of you, hand in hand. Let me once again express my respect to all of you.
That was Mayor of Kyoto City, Mr. Kadokawa. So from here on, to my questions, if you could answer within 1 or 2 minutes. So I ask for your kind cooperation. In Japan, the situation is such that, as I explained at the outset, we're falling very much behind in terms of speed and otherwise. Sandra-san, you are aware of the global decarbonization trends because you've been worked for overseas organizations. What is the state of progress? Actually, last month, I was at the UN General Assembly Week event, and the UN Global Compact Board meeting is something that I attended as well. And the theme of the board meeting, one of the themes was net zero, and different companies or different countries' CEOs I've interacted with, and net zero to create the target and to implement that is very difficult, they said. And on listening to the various CEOs from different companies, there's a common thread running through them as well as Japanese companies. One of that was the difficulty of Scope 3, and that one company alone cannot achieve. And so that was a common thread. And there are differences as well. And where the differences lies is the following. In other countries, the nation clearly puts out policies for decarbonization to spur change in society, and the government is very positive about that. And the other is that what you've all said with regard to renewable energy in other countries other than Japan. They're increasing supply very positively, and they're trying to penetrate through promotion measures. And that is where the difference lies, I think. At board meeting, UN Secretary General Guterres said that SDGs, well, this year is the midpoint, and SDGs and climate change countermeasures progress is falling very much behind. So from the private sector to the government, he asked that the private sector make policy recommendations. And I said that with regard to climate change, social change is necessary. And to the Japanese government, we ask that they be positive about creating these policies. And renewable energy supply is something that we wanted the government to boost. And Secretary General Guterres said he would directly communicate that to Prime Minister Kishida, who's present for the UN General Assembly meeting, and through the UN and the board meeting, I realized that Mr. Guterres himself, with regard to the climate change countermeasures, there's a sense of crisis on his part, and that there's a change between other countries and Japan. I felt that. Thank you very much. The overseas, the atmosphere overseas must be properly understood so we can take proper measures. So I'd like to ask Ms. Suzuki-san and Oka-san about SMEs. 90% of the companies in Japan are SMEs, and through supply chain, they will have to work on decarbonization, and there's no time to lose. And what is the largest challenge for you, and how do you intend to overcome this barrier or bar in the regions in circulating renewable energy? What are the challenges and what are the difficulties that you face? Either one of you can start. If you could confine yourself to 1 or 2 minutes, please. Please.
Thank you. I'll be brief. First, the importance of climate change action, well, this hasn't been fully appreciated by SMEs. The same thing is with large companies as well. There is the official stance and the truth behind. So environment and economy, we often talk about the trade-off between the two. More simply put, it's profit versus justice. But when we have such a big problem, then our efforts into the climate issue, it's not going to be so simple. Just doing something that is friendly to the environment, for example, bringing your own bottles or doing away with plastics, that is not going to be sufficient. Environment and economy, when you think about profit and justice, justice is something that even if it costs you money, you have to pursue that path because eventually consumers will buy such products. We haven't been able to convey that fully to our colleagues. Our peers are also suffering from the same problem.
Thank you for that. I completely subscribe to Oka-san's view. But having said that, at the Odawara Hakone Chamber of Commerce, 300, 200 companies belong to the chamber. And 70% of the companies of Japan are SMEs. Of the 3,200, 80% are small-sized companies of less than 5 employees. And that's the reality of this country. And the SMEs are not taking action. It's very difficult for the SMEs to take action. My company is SMEs. Owners of SMEs are such that they have to do everything by themselves. And so because of the energy required and because of lack of knowledge, we cannot do it. Decarbonization is necessary. We understand that, but we cannot take action. And that's reality. I've been involved in different things for over 10 years, and I keenly feel the following. SMEs, what would make SMEs move and take action? I think there are 2 points. One is justice is very important. One is whether it leads to profit. If you say you can make profit, I think people would listen and they would take action. And number two, if you say it's mandatory, if you don't do it, you'll be in trouble. There's penalty. Maybe it's not a good thing to do, but initially, to achieve targets, you need a trigger. If you're forced to do it, people do it and then are convinced afterwards, and then they take the next step. So this process has to be there to focus on energy. In thinking about these things, what's important is that you have to look at the overall picture of got energy. I only talk about electricity, but heat is a major factor. And the other is increasing renewable energy. That's like a motto. But to convince people to conserve energy, to what extent can you reduce the energy that you use? And after you've reduced it, how much can you create of energy? And then you talk about renewable energy. And inclusive of that, for each region, it's important to create the policies. And when policies are formulated, the stakeholders find it easy to do things. Companies would find it easy to invest because it's a government policy. It's not things that are talked about the governor or city mayor. And what I've talked about is it may be broad brush, but for SMEs to make it mandatory to do energy conservation diagnosis. I haven't been able to talk about this to date at the business leaders, entrepreneurs, and at the chambers. We have had subsidies, and if you look at the 300,000 per company, ordinary company can undergo a diagnosis. There are 3.5 SMEs throughout the world. If you pay 300, it's 1 trillion yen. And if you're going to use 150 trillion yen to GX, perhaps you have money to do this. Maybe 1 year is not sufficient in 3 years. If we could inject 300 billion yen of national budget, you can do it. To what extent energy is being used can be made known to the company, and then they know what to improve. So this diagnosis is very important, and I think it's a necessary thing to do. So inclusive of this, if to try to get the SMEs to take action to move, you have to grab them by the throat to make the move. So next, please.
Thank you for reminding me what I needed to say. Redefinition of energy conservation. I think we need to redefine what energy efficiency is about. In the past, we used to say that, for example, electricity bills must be reduced. So ISO 14001, you thought that that was all you needed to do, but new value is energy conservation is reducing cost, and then decarbonization. So there must be redefinition of energy efficiency may be needed.
In relation to where I'm involved, without making large investments in electricity, 20%, I think, is such that we can conserve energy. And then we wouldn't be talking about restarting nuclear power reactors. We're increasing the pace of our discussion. Money or to create the feeling that you have to do it, otherwise you're in trouble. I think the first and foremost is money. As I think that would be important for financial institutions. Ozeki-san, you talked about impact investment earlier on. when it comes to transition, for energy transition, you have to have return from investment. And then energy transition is an area that you have to contribute. You have to increase your business performance as well. But to increase corporate value, the people who use your products, you have to penetrate and you have to distribute. This is a very complex puzzle. How do you make this all transpire? What are your strategies?
This may be a bit abstract, but right now, in the US and China, because of this political conflict, there's Russia and Ukraine. So globalization is now being reversed. Division is being created. In 1990 and 1991, when Berlin Wall came down, what my bosses said that there's going to be deflation. And his view was in part correct. The Eastern Bloc, the cheaper labor coming in would create deflation. So globalization means deflation. So you need to come up with an investment strategy with that in mind. I remember having that discussion, but today it's the reverse. Climate change and sustainability countermeasures have become the mega trend. The political conflict and EC backlash, we talk about that, but still, unless you take climate measures, we would not be able to stay in this livable planet. So we have to move in that direction no matter what. Inflation Reduction Act was enacted in the United States to urge such investment. That divided country like the United States came together to pass that law. 1 trillion euro of fiscal spending is to be made in EU, and 150 trillion yen in Japan to be invested for GX investment. Where is it going to go? With that money, various projects and actions will move ahead. Who's going to receive that money to conduct business? You have to have that in mind in making investments. And your company, if you're outside of that sphere of investment, how are you going to use your technology and capabilities to go into that trend? This is about environmental adaptation. If you are able to adapt, there is this flow of money, this amount of money. You'll be able to make money by joining this trend. You're doing something good for the planet, but at the same time, you're making a profit. If you look closely, there are such opportunities, and we want to be investing in such companies. There's this cycle.
Thank you for that. What becomes a great force for transition is the next generation. Harashina-san, at the university, you are training students who will contribute with agency and take ownership. In 10 countries, as a result of surveys of people from 16 to age 25, there are the lowest number of students are not concerned about the changes of the climate. The awareness of the youth are a problem. Their awareness is very low about the climate change, and nobody talks about the climate change. And there's a data that says 41% do not talk about climate change in France and in Europe. The percentage is about 20% in Japan. The youth here in Japan do not talk about climate change. So that's a worrying trend that we're seeing. And perhaps this is a different trend from that seen in Switch. These results are coming out. So going forward, what would be your approach to change the society into a renewable energy society? Indeed, there is such an aspect. Saza-san was full of energy, and I was very happy to see her so energetic. But the situation is tough, especially the younger generation in Japan are becoming increasingly quiet. But their awareness is rising, but they're not translating that into action. I call this hardware. That's awareness that translate into action. hardware, H-E-A-R-T, ware, software and hardware. Yes, mindware is also okay. That is, you have to experience to know. Renewable energy 100% was mentioned earlier, and the students see this, and this becomes a place of learning. There are 780 universities, so if they can become regional activity centers, and when the students are educated there, they will go to companies with an awareness, and so the company listens to younger people, and the management will change. So we hope that the younger people will engage in activities more and more. And we have to expand the realm of universities. There were 9 university heads, but we have doubled the number of university heads in our group. And we have had Tottori University here and there. So at our university, we do this not only as an organization, but the students and staff and professors are also involved. Universities as individual members involve student societies and teaching staff and other administrative staff, and in units of campuses, we have them engage in activities, and it's broadening. Thank you very much. We have a paper sign up saying I have to wrap up, and I feel it very unfortunate that I have to wrap up. But if we could have a word from you each. We've only started our discussion. We're getting to the good part, but we have to end. In terms of decarbonization and climate change countermeasures, what policies do you wish to see strengthened? Very briefly, could you talk about your requests to the government or local government, anything going forward, the policies for promotion and strengthening? Could you talk about what policies you want to see passed and formulated? Harashina-san first, please.
Because we are a university, so in our education, maybe this could be a required subject to be taken to support this. The Ministry of Education is creating a coalition, Net Zero Society Promoting Coalition of Universities, universities and research institutes. We want such support for our education.
Thank you, Ozeki-san. Yes, in the world of investment, as you know, the Kishida administration talked about a government based on asset management starting next year. The new NISA will be launched. It's a tax-free investment quota. Depending on how you count it, the quota will be increased threefold. And according to industry talk, in corporate pension funds, similar system may be expanded. And the present NISA's accumulation of savings, the index or the types of investment are not taking up sustainability. If we're going to promote investment as a company based on asset management, this type of cumulatively cumulative investment funds are such that passive investment is not recognized, but decarbonization and low carbonization had not penetrated much. And sustainably linked investment should be given priority going forward, because the younger generation have a high awareness. And if in relation to a nation founded on asset management, I think that would be important. And in terms of energy policies, difference between Japan and outside is that renewable energy cost is high, and there's very little renewable energy. And if we, in terms of volume and price, we need to do something to penetrate and bring down the cost and increase the volume. Otherwise, Japanese businesses, recently inclusive of Kyushu, semiconductor production is very much talked about. But if there's no renewable energy, these global companies are committed to early 100, so they will no longer be able to stay in Japan. And we need to think about that possibility. Sandra-san, please.
The world is calling for net zero, Japan, ourselves, companies, each one of us, we have to understand that if we move with only our standard, Japan will be left behind. So the government, towards forming a decarbonized society, the government has to show its strong will and resolve through public procurement. Adding that requirement would mean that people would know that that is what is needed to create a desirable society, to change the mindset of people. This is going to be the step. And we need to expand the supply of renewable energy and penetrate this more widely. That is essential.
Suzuki-san, please. Thank you. I haven't been able to talk about specifics, and I'll be abstract once again. I've been listening to people talk this afternoon, and I felt that it's really diversity. When stock prices go up, there are people who are happy, and then there are people who are indifferent, and then some people feel it's okay if they live in the next couple of years, but there's a lot of future for the younger generation. So there are different people, and to all of the stakeholders, the common issue is climate change. Having recognized the diversity, we have to think about how to connect, and I think that is something what we have to do. And as was mentioned earlier, in the local scene, I have created a consortium involving different sectors, large companies and SMEs have a gap between them, and then there's something between the government, and these are inevitable. We have to recognize the differences, but we have to think about how to work together despite the differences. That is something I keenly felt today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. From a broader perspective, what was not discussed today is that still today there is this war going on between Ukraine and Russia. And yesterday, it just so happened that about the situation on in Ukraine, I was talking to somebody who is versed in that matter, and huge numbers of shells are being launched, and how much CO2 is being emitted through that. In 2021, the then Prime Minister said carbon neutrality in 2050, and I applauded that. There has been some toning down. That excitement that I had then has shriveled, but to the government, I want the government to have the proportion power, and at the local level, on carbon neutrality, incentives are very limited in terms of the sectors covered. I don't call it equal and fair, so I want that to be revised.
Thank you very much. We've overrun by 10 minutes, but we'd like to close the session. It's my oversight. I'm sorry, Paul Pullman, who was a manager of Unilever before, I did an interview with him, and he was very passionate about the following. Corporate transformation. The key to this is for the management, the top management, to change their way of thinking and to make profit as a result of making the world worse, or to make profit as a result of making the world better. That's the skill of and the leadership of the management that is being tested. And that was very impressive. That applies not only to business managers, politicians, universities, and local government leaders as well. And at JCI, the newly launched Leaders Circle, leaders have joined us. And JCI member companies, I'd like to I'd like to ask you to keep to heart power to influence and to implement that. So with these thoughts in mind, I'd like to close this session. Thank you very much to the panelists.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kuniya and the members of the Leaders Circle. Thank you very much for a very powerful discussion. So lastly, from co-representative of JCI, Mr. Sergio Cato will make concluding remarks.
皆さんこんばんは。
Good evening, everyone. My time has been taken away by the previous session, but I'm about to cry. I was moved by your passionate pleas. I just wanted to keep on listening to that discussion. I felt that I would like to continue to take action with all of you. Can you just give me a few more minutes? Stay with me just for a while. First, I'd like to thank Mark, and in the first session, Aoyagi-san, Ezaki-san, Suzuki-san, Takahashi-san, Iwamoto-san, Saza-san, Sogano-san, Togi-san. And in the last session, Ms. Wu, Mr. Okawa, Ozeki-san, Mr. Suzuki, Mr. Harashina, and from Kyoto, Mr. Kadokawa. Thank you so much for your strong message. And all of you who are here physically and those of you joining us online, thank you so very much for joining us today. Having listened to the discussion, the topic of JCAS today, speed and collaboration and coordination, the importance of which was reminded once again. And the power and the passion is what you have given us. How did you feel, everyone? Let us thank the speakers once again with a big round of applause. Thank you. Last week, the IEA, the International Energy Agency, announced the net zero roadmap. It said that in order to keep temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, developed countries must reduce CO2 emissions by 80%. G7 made a promise this year. Do you remember? Developed countries or around the world, we need to reduce GHG emissions by 60%. That was a promise made. Given the situation, our target in Japan is that by 2030, we are to cut by 46%. And according to the roadmap, we need to triple renewable energy by 2030. Japan stands at 22% today, and in 2030, it will be increased to 36 to 40. It's not going to be doubled even in 2030. So this is not ambitious at all. And the target for 2035, Japan is yet to make a pledge for 2035 when the rest of the world has. So in this situation, non-state actors, all of you who are here, should not be waiting for the government to come up with policy. We must take climate action to stop the boiling. We heard this term, boiling, many times today. We must take action now to stop this boiling. Because otherwise, global boiling could proceed further. And as Mr. Bloomberg was saying, we're going to have more rain, drought, flooding, forest fires. And there's also going to be impact felt in agriculture and fisheries. We already are seeing impacts there. It's not just the environment. It is going to bring collapse in the business models of various industries. By taking climate action, and as Ms. Wu was saying today, by playing the game according to the global standard, if we don't do that, we will not be able to enhance our international competitiveness. If we don't do that, Japan and the Japanese economy could be left behind from the rest of the world. That is my concern. And from the perspective of energy crisis, we need to take climate action. Look at Ukraine. With that invasion into Ukraine, not just fossil fuels, but other feedstock prices have gone up. So there's the risk of higher prices. And as we heard, we are buying fossil fuel from overseas, and that costs us 30 trillion yen per year. We can minimize this by transforming our society. But there is a limit to how much we can do on our own. We need a huge societal change. So connecting the efforts of each one of us by collaborating and by co-creating, by creating such a forum, of course, this is to be supported by the government. So we make recommendations. We must continue making recommendations to the government. At JCI, this network, this is exactly what this network should do. We must be such a platform. This is something that I was reminded of keenly today. Now, since this is a call to action, once again, let us do that real-time communication once again. At JCI and with all of you, what is going to be the next action? What climate action would you like to implement? I have, well, having listened to the conversation today, I put in some of the ideas here. So you can give us multiple answers. Can you choose? The first one is expansion of renewable energy procurement. Let us work toward expansion of renewable energy procurement. Second one is carbon pricing, support to SMEs, policy recommendations to be made. Third one, at local level, local community level, let us have practical collaboration through workshops to co-create. Number four, we have different themes. We heard about electric vehicles from Mitsubishi, and we heard about supply chains. We can create workshops to find thematic collaborators. And as we heard from the representative from Cowell, we have to have that awareness, each one of us. So by collaborating with the media, we could see enhancement of the awareness across Japan, improving understanding of the issues through collaboration with the media. What would you say? JCI is working with the media, and the other day on NHK and TV Asahi, the promise about 1.5. Did you see that program that was aired on the networks? We have Mr. Yamaguchi from TV Asahi, an announcer. I saw him. Mr. Yutaka Yamaguchi is also very enthusiastic. He's reporting a lot on renewable energy. He's trying to send a message of the sense of urgency. Please watch those programs and let everyone know about this issue so that we can have higher awareness, more than 3.5% of the population. So we got many responses. Yes, I agree. All of them are important, but we must prioritize and we have to focus on the results. If we do this, we have to achieve this much results. We have to have our focus on the results in taking and planning these actions. We have to think of this as our own problem, as our main agents to take action, to come up with a solution, make a contribution to the solution against climate change and global boiling. At JCI, we want to continue to move forward with you. Lastly, we heard many things, many words. Mr. Sueyoshi gave quotes of Secretary General Guterres of the United Nations. And lastly, let me just share with you two sayings to give back to you the passion that you have given me. two things. One is the words of honorary chairman of the Rocky Mountain Institute, Dr. Emery Lovins. His words. This person is an authority who has advised various governments around the world, including Japan, as well as companies in more than 70 countries, on advanced energy, resource efficiency, strategy, and security. He's a global authority. He was in Japan the other day, joining us in the study session with the members of JCI. And he wrote a book on new fire, and he said the following. Fire made us human. By using fire, the humankind developed. Fossil fuels made us modern. Thanks to fossil fuels, thanks to that energy, we were able to modernize. But we now need a new fire that makes us safe, secure, healthy, and durable. We need a new fire today. It has to be safe, secure, healthy, and durable. That is the kind of fire that we need today. That is what he said. This is exactly what renewable energy is about. These are words that contribute to climate action. The second one, the last one, my mentor, Chairman Yamashita of RICO, this is a proverb that he encountered, and this is something that still supports me to today. This is an ancient American Indian proverb. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. That is why we have to take good care of the planet. These two things I want to share with you in concluding my remarks. Thank you so very much.
With this, we have concluded the entire program. There was a lot of enthusiasm in this hall. For those online, we'd like to close at this point. Thank you very much for your participation.